Thank you for joining me for Cold Counter. In this episode, I'll be teaching you how to stop feeding LeBlanc in my ranked games. Now, before we can counter a champion, we need to first identify where she draws her strengths from. For LeBlanc, she draws this from two primary categories: her ability to choose when to fight and her burst damage. Now, you may notice this as a recurring theme with champions that I choose to do an episode of Cold Counter on. And that's because these are the things that make many champions extremely strong, or at least difficult champions to play against. So to counter her burst damage, she's AP, so you'll want to stick to MR items. That's magic resistance. So a Banshee's Veil is a great one to pick up if you're a tank. Otherwise, you've got three other items that you can choose from: Abyssal Scepter if you're an AP, Edge of Night if you're an ADC, and then of course lastly the quintessential anti-AP item, which is the Maw of Mortius. Think of Maw of Mortius as having an extra health bar when going up against AP assassins or mages of any kind for that matter. Now early in the game, or in your laning phase, watch for her passive procs. Her passive will apply a stack to you after she uses any abilities, and then after 1.5 seconds, casting any other abilities on you will activate extra damage. Now this is extremely potent on her early game. However, you can pretty much ignore that late game, given that she is going to build so much damage that her passive will almost be irrelevant anyways. When preparing for a gank, try to bait out her mobility before the jungler goes in. And be sure to do this prior to level 6, because once she gets her ultimate, she's almost ungankable. Later in the game, when you're preparing for team fights, try to force her to burn all of her mobility to get on top of you. Stay far enough away that she'll have to burn her ultimate and her dash to get to you. And then of course, strafe left and right to avoid her binding. Don't panic flash if the binding lands on you. You will not be able to flash outside of its range, or even get outside of its range, unless you have some kind of second mobility, like a dash and a flash. Instead, let the binding run its course, and then flash afterwards. Normally, and this is unfortunate, but 9 times out of 10, if she lands that binding, and you're not going to be able to kill her, you simply are going to die. So don't waste your summoner spells if you don't have to. When she goes in for the kill, be sure to CC her and lock her down. There is a brief delay before she can distort back to her original dash position. Use that time to land your CC and then burst her down before she can run away. Once you're in those consistent team fighting phases of the game, you'll simply have to wait patiently for her to make a mistake. Do not, under any circumstances, overextend or chase her down to try and kill her. She'll waste your time and have a good chance of killing you. Force her to come in on you, and then kill her when she tries to. Stay with your teammates. They're the best defense against any assassin. Ultimately, when it comes to countering a champion, nothing can be more valuable than the experience that you can learn from playing the champion yourself. So if you've got some spare IP, I can't advise enough you taking a few games on LeBlanc, getting an idea for how her kit works and what she thinks. That way, when you're playing against her, you'll have a better idea of what to do. Thank you for watching, and feel free to comment below on what you guys think of this episode format. Would you like me to add more details and more information, or do you like the general knowledge on how to counter a champion? Would you like me to include like a list of champions that hard counter any given champion that I'm talking about at the time? Feel free to let me know. Anyways, you guys have an awesome day out on the